Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC 283. Yep, the first pay-per-view of 2023, and man, it is a banger. We are coming out of Brazil this week. We got 15 fights on tap this week, so I say we don't waste too much time. Let's get into it. Quickly before we do though, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody joining me. Let's do this. We kick things off in the bantamweight division. We have the 18-4 Stamaan Oliveira versus the 13-0 Daniel Marcos. Daniel Marcos fresh off the Dana White Contender Series where he looked pretty good, but he did so coming off of a, 2-3 year layoff, and the man really stepped up his game in that time. The Peruvian is a decently skilled fighter with a very good kickboxing game, and he showed decent durability and takedown defense. You got one thing to worry about against Stamaan Oliveira, though, and that is his submission defense, which we have not seen tested too much. Stamaan Oliveira is not a guy I really like to back too much in the UFC. His style is pretty much submission or bust, and if he's not able to do that, he doesn't really have minute-winning potential to me in the long run. Not a guy who's going to have the best success against these higher guys in the division. In this spot here, it's hard to deny the DraftKings upside for someone like Stamaan Oliveira because he does have submission upside. I mean, he jumped guillotine 100,000 times against Tony Gravely. If Daniel Marcos is sloppy, he will be able to jump on something here and is pretty deadly. On the other side of things, though, it's really hard for me to see why Stamaan Oliveira is a favorite here, because if he's not able to implement a grapple-heavy game plan, I think Marcos is going to have the edge in the striking. I think he's got the length, he's got the accuracy, I think he's got decent power as well. And from everything we've seen from him, he's making the right improvements on a year-to-year basis. From a betting side of things, it's all Marcos here. He has the ability to win this fight. I think he has the ability to look like a huge hindsight favorite, and he's not at that price tag. I think you're getting a great steal, and I think he wins this fight a lot more than the line does entail at the plus 140 range. Stamaan Oliveira, although a decently talented fighter, should not be the favorite in this spot. He's more of a underdog kind of guy where he is able to pull off these upsets, but I don't think he has the minute winning, the striking, or even sometimes the cardio to put up with the power and technical ability of Daniel Marcos on the feet. I'm relying on Daniel Marcos' takedown defense and forward pressure to win a 15-minute striking exchange. The official pick is going to be Marcos by decision. On DraftKings, Marcos has decent cash upside because he does have a really high floor in my opinion, but it's hard really to get to him because there are so many volatile fighters that you want to get in your GPP lineups, which we'll talk about later. Next up, you have the UFC vet Cody Stamaan with a 25-1 record facing Lacerda making his UFC debut at 12-1. Lacerda going to be the Brazil native fighting out of Nova União, and if there's one thing you can say about this guy is he's a really good submission grappler. I mean, the guy has very good ability to sweep with these heel hooks. He's got a very good submission game in his own right, but he uses that to get a dominant position in the wrestling. His striking, not the best. He has been improving in it, but in this spot here, I do think he's going to look very, very inferior to someone like Cody Stamaan. Cody Stamaan is usually a guy who's going to wrestle you to a decision, but in this spot here, he's going to have the speed, the technicality, and the forward pressure to beat Lacerda on the feet, and I think he is very, very sneaky here. To me, there's two ways you can play this. From a betting side of things, it's an under you can look at, plus 200 for a guy in Lacerda whose win condition is probably a submission, and Stamaan is getting a step down in competition with the ability to probably pound out Lacerda, who's getting a huge step up that he's probably not ready for. I think Stamaan, although he isn't known as the best finisher, the best knockout power, I think he has the ability to land some ground and pound, is very technical on the feet, and can really wear Lacerda down the stretch. Where I like the fight the most is on DraftKings, and this is probably my sneakiest and favorite fight to target. Lacerda is going to have great underdog value with his win condition being that finish, being that first round submission, second round submission. It's not impossible. He does have the ability to do so, but more so it's Cody Stamaan. And I know that sounds crazy. He's probably going to be one of the lowest owned fighters, maybe the lowest owned fighter at the 9K range, and that's why I like him. He has such good upside and is going to come at great ownership here because no one's going to be on him because he thinks he's a decision fighter. And although he may be in this spot here as well, he's going to have takedown upside. He's going to have the ability to be the much better striker, lots of volume, could have knockdown potential against a guy on Lacerda who is going to be slower. And you also have finish ability here. So when you're getting a guy like Stamaan at huge ownership, especially due to the people around him, like the Burns, like the Rodrigues, he's going to go overlooked. He's going to still have a decent chance at winning this fight and scoring well in the process. I think he's pretty sneaky and could be the difference maker here. But again, hard to trust Stamaan. I get it. Lacerda also a very good underdog play. Overall, I like this fight to target. I think it is a violent one and should be a fun scrap to watch. Gun to my head, I'm picking Cody Stamaan to win. I'm thinking he could win this one by decision. It's probably the safest option. What I'm trying to insinuate is there's a lot better chance for this fight to finish than the line does entail. Let's move on, though, to the fight of the night, the people's main event, the one, the only, the GOAT, Fairn, the 6-4 French prospect. Man, I'm kidding. There's nothing really much to say about this one. Nunes 9-1. It's her fight to lose. She is the more powerful striker, the better inside boxer, and just like everybody else in the division, has the ability to take down Fairn and dominate her on the ground. Fairn has a horrible takedown defense, horrible ground game, and can be dominated by almost anybody. And I think that although Josiane Nunes is one to throw bombs and look for that on the feet knockout, if there's any struggle at all, she's going to be able to fight on the ground. I think that her floor is insane for someone like Josiane Nunes. I think her finish ability is also through the roof. I think Josiane Nunes gets a first round finish here, either by ground and pound or by clipping Fairn on the feet. It's Nunes' fight to lose. I think she wins it at a pretty high clip. Next up, we have the 14-5 Warlley Alves taking on the 24-1 Nicholas Dalby. This is an interesting matchup. On one side of things, you have a very, very talented but inconsistent fighter in Warlley Alves. On the other side of things, you have the complete opposite. A very consistent fighter who isn't the most talented. I think Alves has a better skill set and a really good chance of getting this. So anybody who has gotten good dog money on Alves, I commend you for it. Great spot there. For me, the question is, can I rely and depend on Alves at a favorite price tag? I don't know if I can here, because Dalby, we know one thing for sure, he's going to stay in the fight. He's going to be a tough guy, and he will always keep swinging near the end. Whereas Alves is more of a cardio dump, explosive fighter type that is going to try to get you out there early, and if he can't, sometimes he crumbles. The pick here is going to be Warlley Alves. I think he's a guy that should win this fight at a pretty high clip. He has all the tools to do so. For me, it's just, can I rely on him that much at a favorite? I don't think so. On DraftKings, I'll be playing him because he does have finish ability, he has takedown upside, he has a ton of power in his hands, and he does have a decent GPP ceiling. I think Dalby could be a decent cash play as an underdog here as well, but this is a fight that I don't want to have too much financial involvement in because of the uncertainties here. It is a very high volatility matchup, but for those who got that underdog price tag at Alves, I commend you for it. Good for you. I also don't mind the fight doesn't go to decision at even money, even though Dalby isn't the biggest finisher. Alves is probably killer to be killed here, and if that's the case, could see a finish nonetheless. So give me violence, give me Alves, let's say round 2 knockout. I'll be cheering for him. I will have some DraftKings ownership on him, but not really the guy I want to be trusting with my money the most. All right, this is one of my favorite fights on the card. 13-4 Terrence McKinney, 18-3 Ismael Bonfim. Terrence McKinney is a ball of fire. He's dynamite. He's a guy who goes out there first round or bust, and that's what you want to see. Especially as a DraftKings player primarily, I want to go out there and I want to see these fighters who are going to fight for money early on and be involved in a high-scoring matchup nonetheless. The guy's had 4 UFC fights, all 4 of them ending in the first round, and of course 3 first-round finishes. You cannot get past that, but he's getting a tough test here. UFC newcomer, set of brothers. Ismael here is the first one we're going to see. 18-3, fighting in his home country of Brazil. This should be a very, very fun fight, but there's one thing that we need to realize. Terrence McKinney's going to come out here that first round. All hell is going to break loose. If he cannot get that finish in the first round, it is going to be Bonfim's fight to win, because rounds 2 and 3, he is going to have more cardio, just like anybody else would over Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney's all type 2 muscle fiber. The guy's going to go out there, like huge explosive movements, whether that be grappling, whether that be swinging with all fight ending intentions. We know Terrence McKinney is going to want to get out there early. He has the wrestling to do so, the jiu-jitsu to do so, and the power to do so, and I would not put it out of the question that he gets a first round finish. I think that could be a very likely outcome. But it's hard for me to trust him, especially from a betting perspective, against someone in Bonfim who has more durability, in my opinion, who has the ability to go into those deep waters where we haven't seen McKinney do so. For me, I'd be very careful with your bets on McKinney. I much prefer the under 1.5 here, which I did lock up myself as a bet, because it's going to be a volatile matchup. Minus 650 not to go the distance. I don't think it reaches the scorecards at all. My favorite saying here on the channel is gun to my head. Well, gun to my head, I'm picking Terrence McKinney round 1 submission. That is my thought here. I know Bonfim is pretty talented, but I think this is going to be a huge step up in competition. I think McKinney is going to go out there, guns a-blazing, and hopefully gets an early finish for us, both on DraftKings and for our under 1.5. All right, let's skip through this one quickly because I don't know how often it's actually going to happen. Jailton Almeida versus Shamil Abdurakhimov. Abdurakhimov has pulled out of 8 of his last 10 fights. I get why he wants to pull out of this one. Jailton Almeida is an absolute beast. If this fight does happen, it's Jailton Almeida's all day. Second time we've seen a 9.7 fighter on DraftKings, and for good reason. This guy scored over 113 points in all of his wins. He is an absolute monster. He has a grappling upside, insane power in his hands, and I do think that he gets Shamil out of there in the first round. The guy's minus 400 to win in round 1. Then that's like a 75% implication he's going to get a first round finish. I have to agree with that as well. Shamil's getting up there. He's being fed to the wolves. Give me Jailton Almeida all day. Safe DraftKings play. Good GBP upside. Betting perspective, I think the plus 300 is a decent look because there's no way you should be getting plus money like that on a guy like Jailton Almeida who could just ground and pound Shamil out of there. But all value is lost in the money line, all value is lost in the under, and all value is lost in the round 1 Jailton, which are all 3 of the things I would be betting on if it was a closely lined fight, sorry. But keep an eye out for cancellations with Shamil. The pick is Gelton by round 1 knockout. Not much more to say. Second Bonfim brother time, 13-0 Gabriel Bonfim versus 11-2 Mounir Lazzez. I will admit, Lazzez is on the no bet list. I was incorrect with him against Lusa, and I was incorrect with him against Alves. But to those who want to bet this fight, I cannot blame you for wanting to take a shot on Mounir Lazzez. I think the guy has decent potential here to win a very good kickboxing battle, whether it be from range. I think that Lazzez is durable. I think that Lazzez has the ability to go out there and withstand a lot of the damage from Bonfim and throw it back at him. I think it's a good fight that probably goes to decision a lot of the times. But better mixed martial artist is Gabriel Bonfim. I think he has the ground game potential. I think he has more finishing equity, or through another body shot like Alves did. I think Gabriel is the better Bonfim brother and a guy who has good ability to win this fight at a high clip. But what way will he try to do that? Will he grapple? Will he try to be the aggressor? Or will he just kickbox at range? Because I think if he kickboxes at range, Lazzez is probably going to have a good chance at winning this fight. If I was Bonfim, I'd get scrappy. I'd force the clinch exchanges a lot. I'd go for takedowns. And I think if he does that, it's Bonfim's fight to lose. The pick for me is going to be Gabriel Bonfim. I think he gets it done by decision with grappling. Although I would not be surprised if Lazzez is going to stay in there and make it a close one. On DraftKings, this is kind of a pass. I think for a cash lineup, you could take Lazzez and hopefully he does have a kickboxing bout, but I don't think Lazzez has that much finishing equity in my opinion, so for that reason, I can't get to him that often. Could get to Gabriel as some like contrarian options because he does have that takedown upside, does have some finish upside, and probably goes a bit overlooked this week at the 8.8K price tag, but it is hard to get to him above the people like Walker, like people we're talking about later, and Rodrigues, Stamaan, Burns, etc., etc. So the pick is going to be Gabriel Bonfim. I think it's a very, very good technical matchup, and I do not fault anybody for taking the shot on Mounir Lazzez, but I'll be riding with Bonfim. Thiago Moises, 16-6 versus Costa versus Costa. Costa's 19-5. I apologize for saying his name wrong, but he's new to me, whether that be from a new fighter in the UFC, but also a new fighter I haven't really seen much on the regional scene. And it's a tough debut getting Thiago Moises, a guy who's fought Islam Makhachev, a guy who's fought some good fighters like Ismagulov, Dariush, Bobby Green, a lot of these great fighters in the division, and it is a very, very tough debut to get. I think this is Moises' fight to lose. I think he has the grappling ability, good takedowns, good control offense, and much better level of competition. But I don't know how much I'm getting to him because on the feet, Moises should win, but with lower volume. I don't know what performance we're going to get from Moises. A guy's going to go out there and get a first round finish like he did last time and score 100 plus points, or a guy who's going to go out there, win a decision, score 70, 80 like he has in the past. It's very tough for me to decide how I want to target this from a DraftKings perspective. From a moneyline perspective, I don't mind Moises as a parlay piece. I don't think it's a card you want to parlay too much on because it is dangerous. But I do think Moises wins this fight a lot of the time. I think he's the more battle-tested, proven fighter with some good skill set to go around, but not one I think I'm going to have too much financial involvement on. From DraftKings side of things, Costa could be a decent punt play, but I am probably going to stay away from this fight. Not as volatile as other fights on the slate, and for that reason, I don't know if I want to get that same involvement. It's not going to have that same GPP upside. This fight will have some GPP upside, though. Gregory Rodrigues, 13-4. Bruno Ferreira, 9-0, making his debut. Two Brazilian fighters. First of all, Gregory Rodrigues, that cut last time, absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to show it. If you know, you know. But he's back. He's healed, fighting at 185 in Brazil. This is going to be a fun fight. Short notice replacement though, so Bruno Ferreira hopefully comes in on shape because this is going to be a war for as long as it lasts. Now, don't get me wrong, the pick is going to be Gregory Rodrigues. I think he gets it done by first round knockout, but what I'm saying is Bruno Ferreira is a very, very good punt play this week because Gregory Rodrigues, although he is shown to have some decent resiliency, he's the same guy who was knocked out by Jordan Williams. He's the same guy who has been finished before, and I think if one thing Bruno Ferreira has is finish potential. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, of course, Ferreira's finishes have come by ground and pound, have come from my diverse ways that I think Gregory Rodrigues can avoid staying out of. And because I do think Rodrigues has decent jiu-jitsu in his back pocket, decent wrestling, and I think this fight stays a striking exchange like Rodrigues wants. And in that striking exchanges, Rodrigues has power, good technical ability, somewhat decent durability. So for me, it's going to be a slugfest, a fight that I want the under on, a fight that I think Rodrigues gets it done a lot of the time. The official pick is going to be Gregory Rodrigues by first round knockout, and for that reason, there is good DraftKings upside. 9.1K. He scored over 108 points in 3 of his 4 wins, and he does have good finish potential here in the spot. On the other side of things, Ferreira, great punt play because his win condition is probably a first round knockout as well. Don't think it happens too often, but if it were to, it would probably reach the optimal lineup. So give me Gregory Rodrigues, give me violence. This should be a great fight. And finally, we have Shogun Rua versus Pohteira, and this fight's kind of the make or break on the slate for me here. I say this purely because of the ownership and the volatility of the matchup. There's no question that Pohteira is a fraud. I don't think he's going to do very well in the division, but he's getting a corpse of Shogun Rua. His last fight, his retirement fight, a fight that, although Rua has a guy he could probably beat, he's not at his full form. He's not the same guy we grew to love growing up in the UFC. So To me, it really comes down to where does the ownership lie? Because if I can get a fighter in Pohteira whose win condition is to knock out the corpse of Shogun Rua in the very first round, I'm going to do that at low ownership. I'm going to take the shot on him because I do think you can get different there and you can be contrarian and a guy who has a very good ceiling. On the other side of things, if people are piling up to fade Shogun Rua's last fight, I do think Shogun has wrestling path to victories, has the ability to wear out Pohteira and get a finish at the end here. I think that either one of those is possible. But for me, one thing is very probable. The finish is likely. So I'm liking the under 2.5. I'm liking the fight doesn't go. That could be a decent parlay piece or straight play for me here. I think it's Pohteira early round 1 or Shogun in like say round 2 or 3 by some wrestling and some tiring out Pohteira. My DraftKings involvement is going to come from the ownership. I'm going to be playing this fight no matter what. Whatever fighter is lower owned, I assume to be Eeyore here. I'll probably like to get an edge on just because I think a lot of people are going to be fading Eeyore here because he's not UFC caliber. I completely understand, but it's all about the matchup here. I think Eeyore is very, very sneaky. I kind of like him on DraftKings. Official pick, though, I will take Eeyore Pohteira by first round knockout, but I promise you, I am cheering for Shogun Rua like I hope we all are. I hope he gets it done in his last fight in UFC. Main card time. This one is an absolute banger. 16-5-1 Paul Craig, 19-7 Johnny Walker. Paul Craig, we know the guy. Lou Betcha, write his name right there. He's the guy who famously says, Paul Craig is 9-2 in fights he's lost. This guy finds a way to come back, beat all adversity. I mean, he's beaten Ankalaev. He's beaten Jamal Hill, who's fighting for the belt today. He's beaten all of these guys, and I think that Johnny Walker may be a lot worse than the fighters he's beaten, but stylistically, I think I'm going to have to pick Johnny Walker here. And that pains me to say because I love Paul Craig. I think he's a really fun fighter to watch, and I cheer for him in a lot of the fights, but Johnny Walker has the tools to win this fight. Johnny Walker has power, and his main downfall has been his chin and his poor fight IQ, but I don't think he has to worry about Paul Craig chin checking him here, so how's his fight IQ? Is he going to go into the guard of Paul Craig, or is he going to Volkan Oezdemir, stand right back up, look to exchange again? Either way, I think it's a violent affair. I think the under is something I'm going to be playing myself, and the official pick is going to be Johnny Walker by first round knockout. That being said, I'm cheering for Craig. I want DraftKings ownership on both sides due to the volatility of the matchup, due to how crazy I think it's going to be for as long as it lasts, and due to both fighters having fight ending potential. So official pick is going to be Johnny Walker. I'm cheering for Paul Craig. I think it should be a fun fight for as long as it lasts. Now, next up, this one's going to be my shortest breakdown. I'm going to tell you that right away. Jessica Andrade versus Lauren Murphy. I think this is Andrade's fight to lose. She's more powerful, better boxing, better ground game, better wrestling, better level of competition. And I do think she wins this fight at a very, very high clip. She's in Brazil. She's the hometown girl. I think she can get it done either way. I actually think she gets a finish here, but to me, she is the best parlay piece, although it's not really the best idea to parlay women's MMA, but she is a fighter I think wins at a very high clip. Now, with that out of the way, Lauren Murphy's a person I'm fading on DraftKings. I think her style of winning is a point fighting thing that scored maybe 60 points, which is very, very unlikely. And Andrade could be very sneaky. I mean, a lot of people are going to go to Almeida. They're going to go to Burns. They're going to go to Rodrigues. She could be sneaky at 9.4. I think she has the highest floor on the slate, aside from maybe Almeida. I do think she wins at a very high clip. Give me Andrade. Official pick is going to be by... You know what? Let's give her the finish. Second round knockout. Now, Gilbert Burns, 20-5. Neil Magny, 27-9. This is one I'm really struggling to wrap my head around. Gilbert Burns should win this fight. He has the better ground game. He can beat Magny a way that Neil Magny's been beaten many times before. And I 100% think this is Burns' fight to lose. But for some reason, in the back of my head, I see the ability for Neil Magny to win a point-fighting decision, whether that be striking from range with Burns thinking he has all this power now. Because if Burns is smart, he goes out there, he wrestles, he takes him down, he probably submits Neil Magny and scores 120 points in doing so. I think his ceiling is through the roof on DraftKings. But I'm a bit worried that Neil Magny is going to point fight, that he's going to use that decent takedown defense and try his best to stay away from the cage. With that devil's advocate part of the way, my prediction here is going to be Gilbert Burns by second round submission. I think that he takes down Neil Magny the same way Chiseo was able to a lot of the time, the same way Rakhmonov was able to control him. Gilbert Burns should be able to dominate Neil Magny on the ground if he follows the right game plan. Let's hope he does so, because I will be playing him a lot on DraftKings and completely fading Neil Magny. All right, let's talk about the quadrilogy here, because Deiveson Figueiredo is taking on Brandon Moreno a fourth time. And if you guys follow the channel, here's how it went. First time I predicted Figueiredo was on a pretty big draw, so that's not a loss, but I was on pretty big. Second fight, I didn't get the odds I wanted. I passed, and I'm mad I did because Moreno looked awesome. But then they gave us this really wide line that I did not think was accurate, and I hammered Deiveson Figueiredo the last time out. Now we get a pick'em, and this pick'em is interesting because I do think it is warranted. These fighters are seeing each other for the fourth time. They know what style they're getting. This should be a coin toss because I think it's the volume of Moreno versus the power of Figueiredo. And whether they're improving or looking to fight each other like this, they're only getting older. They're only learning about each other more. And for that reason, I don't know what side to be on. if I have to give myself an official pick, I think I have to ride with my boy Figueiredo and pick Figueiredo to win by decision once again. But I would not be surprised if Brandon Moreno went out there with volume and takedowns and won a decision in his own right. I don't think it's going to be domination like the second one. Of course, we're going to have to wait for the scales to see how they're looking. But to me, it's a 50-50 fight. I do not fault anybody for taking their shots either way. Because their salaries are the same on DraftKings, I think you can try to fit them both in. I do not blame you. I apologize for taking this cowardice way out, but it's a very, very closely lined fight and for very good reason. Both these fighters have their advantages. Both these fighters have their downfalls. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. But with that out of the way, we get to the main event. Glover Teixeira, 33-8, Jamal Hill, 11-1. And coming in, I expected myself to be betting Jamal Hill. I'll say that right away. I expected to be hammering pretty big, but I do the tape, I do the research, and although we have this image of Glover Teixeira being old and knocked out by Rumble Johnson and finished by Alexander Gustafsson, he was shown to be pretty durable. I mean, he was in the fight of the year last year. Of course, he choked that. Literally, he could have got that finish, but he withstood the damage from Jiri. He was able to inflict a lot of damage on himself, too. And we all know what his ground game is capable of. Now, what I didn't like from Jamal Hill is that he was taken down pretty easily, especially in his last fight against someone like Thiago Santos. I mean, he was taken down at will a few times. He was taken down by Paul Craig. He was finished by Paul Craig. And I don't like that takedown deep from Jamal Hill as much. Now, to use my favorite saying once again, gun to my head, I think Jamal Hill wins this fight. I think he's got touch of death power. I think he has the ability to put anybody's lights out and is young and athletic enough to go out there and finish Glover Teixeira. That being said, would I be surprised if Glover is able to take him down in his home country with the fans going crazy and submit him? No, not at all. I don't think that's out of the equation. But if I'm forced to pick a winner, it will be Jamal Hill. I want ownership on both sides. Kind of leaning for more ownership towards Glover actually due to his price tag. But I do think this is another very, very close fight. I'm going to have to look at the ownerships. I'm going to have to look at how this fight plays out. To me, it's a very, very close fight with both fighters having their paths to victory. And I think it's going to be an absolute war for as long as it lasts. Give me the under. Pick is going to be Jamal Hill, but if I get anywhere near plus 150, plus 160 towards Glover, I will be taking that as well. But that's going to do it for a 15-fight card for UFC 283. Hopefully you guys have stuck with me to the end and are now able to press the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate everybody for joining me. If you got any questions, please check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo. DMs are always open. I did premiere my Moy Gordo play that fell short last week, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. Moy Gordo comes back with a decent card. My official predictions are going to be Daniel Marcos by decision, Cody Stamann by decision, Josian Nunes first round, Warley Alves by second round, Terrence McKinney first round, Jailton Almeida first round if the fight happens, Bonfim decision, Moises decision, Gregory Rodrigues second round, Pohteira first round, Johnny Walker first round, Jessica Andrade second round, Gilbert Burns second round, Figueiredo decision, and Jamal Hill second round knockout. DraftKings wise, you love Almeida up top. How can you not? I think a great pivot play is to target the Stamaan versus Lacerda fight. I think it goes very, very sneaky. I think a finish is likely there. I don't mind Rodrigues up top either. I think really the four fights you have to look at targeting are the Almeida fight, the Rodrigues fight, the Pohteira fight, the McKinney fight, and the main event. Oh my God, so many options and so many great options for you to build your lineups this week. Underdog wise, I like Glover. I like Marcos, especially in cash. Lacerda is a good punt play. And I also think Rua is a decent punt play as well. But hopefully you guys gain enough knowledge from my breakdown that you're able to build some lineups, able to make some money with me this weekend. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to DM me on Twitter. If you want any more insight to my betting side of things, join me with Addicted to Combat and Couch Warrior podcast and Liam Picks Fights Wednesday night at 11 p.m. on the channel. I'll be sure to link it down below as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the breakdown, gained some insight from it, and are able to absolutely crush the slate this weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and let's make some money, guys.